Every afternoon, somewhere in America, a person walks to their mailbox and already knows what's inside before they open it. They can feel it, the weight of the envelopes, that little plastic window, the tight, clinical font spelling out exactly how much they owe and exactly when they need to pay it. Gas, electric, the mortgage that still has 19 years on it. They grab the stack, they shuffle through it in the driveway, and then they walk back inside with that low, quiet hum of dread sitting in their chest. I'm Marcus, and I want to ruin that feeling forever. Because here's what nobody tells you when you're in your 40s or your 50s, grinding through your third decade of work. Money doesn't have to be something that leaves. It doesn't have to be a river running out. You have spent 20 years being told to buy stocks, stare at the numbers, and hope, actually hope, like a child hoping for a snow day, that the screen looks different when you're 65 than it does today. Hope is not a retirement plan. Hope is what you do when you have nothing else. I want to talk about something different. I want to talk about building a system so deliberate, so mechanical in the best possible way that businesses are paying you, cutting actual checks for the privilege of using your capital, not crypto, not some speculative moonshot that your brother-in-law won't stop texting you about. I'm talking about the dividend machine. Think of it like this. You become the landlord, but the tenant never calls you at 2 a.m. about a leaking pipe. They never go 3 months without paying. They just deposit the money quietly like clockwork, regardless of whether the stock market is having a nervous breakdown or a celebration. The machine doesn't care what mood Wall Street is in. It just runs. Section 1. The casino versus the company. Walk onto a casino floor. Really picture it. No windows, no clocks, the carpet patterned loud enough to make your eyes water. That's by design. Every inch of that room is engineered to make you forget what time it is and keep pulling the lever. Wall Street runs the same playbook. Red numbers, green numbers, arrows, percentages, the whole flashing circus of the ticker tape. You're supposed to watch it, obsess over it, trade on it, because every trade generates a fee, and the fees are the whole point. But I want you to think differently. I want you to think like an owner. Say you own a car wash, small operation, 2 lanes, a little waiting area with plastic chairs and a coffee machine that only sort of works. You don't call a business broker every Tuesday morning to ask what the building is worth that day. You don't care. What you care about is the hum of the motors and whether the line of cars stretched around the block at 4 p.m. and whether the cash register made that satisfying clunk when the drawer slid open. What went in, what the business produced. That is the psychological anchor of dividend growth investing. In 2022, when the market dropped hard and fast, the average investor felt it physically, the sick lurch of opening their app and watching a number they'd spent years building shrink in real time. 20% gone. Some people sold. Hands shaking, stomach tight, they sold. And they turned a temporary loss into a permanent loss, locked it in, made it real. But the dividend investor, they looked at something else entirely. They looked at their rent. Pepsi still paid. Johnson & Johnson still paid. Procter & Gamble didn't just pay, they raised it. The stock price is the opinion of a crowd. It shifts with fear, with rumor, with whatever a billionaire said on a podcast. But the dividend, that's the reality of the profit. One is a ghost. The other is a check you can hold in your hand. Section 2. The Blueprint. How to identify a healthy machine. Not all dividends are created equal. Some are traps, bright, glittering yield traps, companies dangling a 10% or 12% return because their stock price is collapsing like a building with the foundation knocked out. The high yield is the smoke alarm. It means something is burning. To build a machine that is still running when you're 90, you need a 4-part diagnostic. 4 questions. Get all 4 right and you have something worth owning for decades. First, the payout ratio. This is the safety buffer. It measures the percentage of earnings a company actually pays out as dividends. Simple math with enormous consequences. If a company earns $1 and pays out 95 cents of it, they are one bad quarter away from disaster. One stumble and your check disappears. We want companies keeping 40 cents of every dollar, holding it back to repair the metaphorical roof, replace the old equipment, and survive the storms that will come. Payout ratio under 60%. That's the floor. Second, the 7% raise rule. Inflation doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on the door. It just quietly erodes. The gallon of milk that cost $3 costing $5, the grocery run that used to take $100 taking $140. If your dividend stays flat for 10 years, you are getting poorer in real terms every single year. We want companies raising their dividend at least 7% annually. That's your shield. You're not just receiving a check, you're receiving a raise automatically every year, beating the rising cost of everything. Third, aristocrat DNA. There is an elite group of companies called dividend aristocrats. To earn that designation, a company must have raised their dividend every single year for at least 25 years in a row. Read that again. The 1987 crash raised it. The dot-com bubble of 2000 raised it. The 2008 financial crisis, when banks were failing like dominoes and the whole system smelled like it was on fire, raised it. The 2020 pandemic, when the world went silent and supply chains snapped, raised it. These companies don't just happen to pay dividends. It's cultural. It's coded into how they operate. Fourth, the sweet spot. Don't be greedy. Be a strategist. There's a yield range, roughly 2% to 4.5%, that signals health. High enough that you can feel it, low enough that the company can sustain it for 30 years without breaking a sweat. A 10% yield is a warning sign. A 3% yield from the right company is a foundation. Section 3. The snowball and the sandwich reality. Some of you watching are what I call the financial glue. You know exactly what I mean. You're writing a check towards your kid's college tuition on the same afternoon you're on hold with your parents' insurance company trying to understand a bill that doesn't make any sense and shouldn't exist. You are pulled in two directions simultaneously, and both directions cost money. You feel less like a person and more like a machine yourself, a human ATM with a bad back and a full calendar. This is exactly where DRIP comes in, the Dividend Reinvestment Plan. In your 40s, you don't spend the dividends yet. You feed them back into the machine. Every check automatically buys more shares. It's a self-fueling fire. The heat from the fire creates more fuel, which creates more heat, which creates more fuel. The compounding is not a metaphor, it's a mechanism. Let's do the actual math, slowly, because this is where it gets real. You have $100,000 in a dividend machine today. It pays you $3,500 a year.
That feels small. I know it does. It feels like a puddle. You'll look at that number and think, that won't change my life. But if those companies grow their dividends at 7% annually and you reinvest every single payment, 15 years from now, that same portfolio, without you adding a single additional dollar of your own money, is paying you over $12,000 a year. The puddle has become a lake. Still water. Deep water. Water you can live off of. Every share you own is a worker. They don't take sick days, they don't ask for raises, they don't quit to work for a competitor. They just show up every quarter and produce. This isn't just mathematics, it's what I think of as breathing room. That's the feeling, the physical, tangible feeling of knowing that even if the call came tomorrow, even if your job disappeared overnight, the machine would still be running. The car wash stays open, the rent keeps arriving, the checks keep coming. Not because you hustled that day, but because years ago you built something that doesn't need you to keep running.
Conclusion.
The financial industry profits from your confusion. Complexity generates clicks. Confusion generates fees. The more intimidated you feel, the more products they can sell you to solve the problem they created. The truth is boring, and boring is exactly what works. Wealth is not a jackpot. It is not a moment. It is a machine you build one deer at a time, slowly, without fanfare, in the ordinary hours of ordinary weeks, until one day it is producing on its own, and you were standing in the driveway in the afternoon light, and the mailbox has something different in it. Here's what I want you to do today. One thing. Go into your portfolio and look at your top 3 holdings. Ask yourself a single question. Is this company paying me to own it, or am I just hoping it gets more expensive? If the answer is hope, if you're staring at red and green numbers and crossing your fingers, it might be time to change the system. Drop your age in the comments. Write, "I'm starting today." Tell me one company you believe belongs in a dividend machine. Let's build something together, not as spectators watching other people get wealthy, but as owners, as people who finally decided to change what arrives in the mailbox. Marcus, signing off.